March 17, 1960. Pasquale Allegrezza, Giovanni Correggio, Giovanni Fusillo, Alessandro Mantella and Guido Mantella were working on a water main under the Don River. There were 5 of the many sand hogs who worked in underground tunnels. This type of workers faced constant dangers as they were exposed to gas leaks, electric shocks, fires and air decompression related maladies such as the bends. The Hogg's Hollow Water Main project was intended to connect a pumping station on Wilson Avenue in Armour Heights with the water distribution network at York Mill Road and Victoria Park Avenue. The project was originally scheduled for completion during the summer of 1959, but it turned out to be dogged by bad luck. First, the contractor ran into financial difficulties, and Guarantee Co. of North America took over the contract in July of 1960. The significant financial pitfall caused the new contractor to care about expediency more than safety, and foremen concerned with the lack of proper precautions were ignored or fired. Former workers later testified that the tunnels lacked fire extinguishers and resuscitators. The timber supports weren't strong enough. Grout was not used to seal the floor of the tunnels, thus letting in sand and silt, and there were no extra air compressors. The site was deemed to meet existing safety standards despite these problems. Around 6 p.m. on March 17th, a dozen workers were underground in a compression chamber west of Yonge Street, welding a steel plating. The workers had been kept after hours, as the welding was supposed to have stopped several hours earlier. Notwithstanding the protests of Superintendent Murray Frank, the site boss overruled his concerns. Possibly an electric wire that fed the torches overheated and caught fire. 2 foremen noticed smoke drifting into the main shaft. Half of the workers escaped through a tunnel to the east and managed to re-emerge on York Mills Road. They tried to release a valve by the main shaft to allow the smoke to blow out of the tunnel, but it was stuck. North York firefighters soon arrived, but they were instructed to wait at least 30 minutes before the water in the tunnel to avoid the collapse of the fragile timber structures once they would be hit by the water, in the hope that the blaze would extinguish itself. The 6 men still in the tunnel found themselves trapped by incredibly high temperatures, toxic smoke and rising level of sand, silt and water. Also because the only compressor in charge of extracting rising materials was switched off in an attempt to cut off the flames that were fed by the compressed air jet. On the surface, confusion reigned as various emergency agencies, civic officials, priests offering last rites and bystanders gathered at the site. No one knew what procedures or protocol to follow, and the lack of on-site backup equipment exposed the dreadful inadequacy of the security measures in place. Several workers further volunteered to try and rescue the trapped men, but to no avail. Around 9 p.m., rescuers pulled the delirious Belgian sand dog Walter Androschuk to the surface and sent him to hospital. Hope for the others faded when Allegrezza's corpse, which took half an hour to move 300 feet, was brought up at about 2 a.m. The other bodies were found over the next day, with recovery hampered by the unbearable heat and shifting silt. Efforts to free Correggio took 6 hours. The Mantella brothers were found huddled together. Within a few days, the Tunnel Tragedy Fund was set up to benefit the families of the victims on both sides of the Atlantic. Metro Toronto Chairman Frederick Gardiner initiated the fund with a $100 donation. Through events such as an April benefit concert at Massey Hall organized by Johnny Lombardi, the fund raised $35,000 by October. An anonymous contractor also offered Correggio's widow and children an apartment rent-free for a year. A week after the disaster, a Requiem Mass was held at St. Agnes Roman Catholic Church for Fusillo and the Mantella brothers. The March 25 edition of the Telegram screamed slave immigrants. For the next 2 weeks, the front page of the Telegram was filled with accounts of workers being ripped off and forced to endure unsafe worksite conditions. Among those reading Frank Drea's articles was Ontario Premier Leslie Frost, who sensed action needed to be taken as soon as possible. Immediately, Frost ordered a royal commission to investigate construction safety and exploitation of immigrants. Though no criminal charges were ultimately laid, the sacrifice of the 5 men at Hogg brought about improvements in the conditions that had led to their death. Their names are among the over 1,000 inscribed in the Fallen Workers Memorial Wall inaugurated at the Columbus Center on April 28, 2016.